Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, and here we are back in Canvas to talk about our next assignment in TinkerCAD. So we follow the buttons down here to our new part 7, the penny trap. I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and there's a few steps for us to do on the penny trap. So here's the video you're watching right now, right? And a reminder for how you're going to log into Google and then how you're going to do the steps in this video and then turn in the STL file. We need an STL file for your penny trap. So it's different than how we normally turn in assignments in this class. So you hope you are paying attention. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to learn how we can use these images. These are just images I found off the internet. How we can import these into TinkerCAD. We can't do that directly. We're going to learn how we can do that. And then we're going to create a penny in TinkerCAD. And then we're going to create a trap for our penny. The penny can freely move around on inside of the trap, but is stuck inside. Okay, so we're going to go ahead then and continue with those steps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open a new tab. I'm going to go to the app portal. If you've got it bookmarked, go directly there. Right, and then from here, I'm going to log into G Suite. This is how we always log into TinkerCAD. Once I've done that and you have your little letter over here, you actually don't need this window anymore. You can now go to tinkercad.com. And then here we are. I'm already logged in, but if you weren't, this is the step where you would have clicked sign in and then sign in with Google. Okay, so pick yourself. Now I am logged into Google, and you can see I've been experimenting with some of these, but we're going to create a new design. So you'll click on create a new design here. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the penny. So penny is basically just a short cylinder, a coin shape. And what dimensions do we make this? You're going to do a Google search for this, right? You're going to go ahead and search for the dimensions of a penny. Right? And Google will tell you what these things are. I'm not even going to read these numbers out loud in the video, right? Do your own Google search for these. All right, so I know what the diameter of my penny needs to be. And I know what the thickness needs to be. I don't know what happened. I'm just going to click undo when I don't know what happened. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and change the height of my penny. There we have it. So, looks a lot like a penny. You can change the color if you want to. So now what we're going to do is, I want this to look even more like a penny. I want to put old Abe Lincoln's face on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one of the many websites that lets you convert your image to an SVG. Why SVG? We want to import an image, and TinkerCAD only supports STL files, OBJ files, and SVG files, these scaled vector graphic images. If you already have an SVG, that's great. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to convert to SVG. I'm just going to do a Google search for this. You're going to find a handy dandy website like this one right here. It allows you to convert your files to SVG. Now we actually have already found a suitable image for you. You're welcome to go find one of your own online if you like. This one worked just fine. We're going to right click on this and pick Save Image As. Right, and you can see I actually already saved it because I had it saved on my computer, but now you'll have it saved on yours. You go back to here, you're going to choose your file, and then pick the image you just downloaded. Right, so now I've chosen that, it's uploading, and now I can start. There's a lot of settings in here. Honestly, we just don't really care about any of these right now. Get my converted image. Look at some annoying advertisement we don't care about, and then it's finished. You converted the file and it started downloading. So now we've got our SVG file downloaded. Now I can go back into TinkerCAD and import. I'm going to choose a file, and we're going to choose that SVG file, right? So this is one I had from earlier today. Here's the one that we just did right now, and I'm going to click open. Now here's where I get to choose the dimensions of my artwork. Right? I don't want this to be 292 millimeters by 294 millimeters. That doesn't make any sense. Right? What makes sense is for this to be the same size as my penny. So I'm going to go ahead and make it that size. Why? Is my number lock off? Interesting. I don't know. 19.05. There we go. And import. So it's going to do TinkerCAD is going to bring my penny then, my SVG image into TinkerCAD. Okay, and then you can see, right, that it's way too tall, but I'm going to go ahead and use the align tool to perfectly line them up like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the thickness of my penny. I want this to be really, 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 really thin. We're talking about like less than a millimeter, right? Something like this, 0.2 millimeters perhaps. Something very, very, very skinny. And now I'm going to use my lift handle to lift it up to where I can just barely see it. That's going to be too much. One's going to be below the thing, and two is going to be hovering above it. So I'm going to change my snap grid. And now I'm going to be able to lower this to where it's just barely above. There we go. Right? The ridges on a penny are subtle, right? They don't stick up very far at all. Right, something like that. Now I can't actually read my penny, so what you might do is maybe raise it the tiniest bit more than that. Oh, I lost some of the letters on my penny. Well, I think that happened during my conversion. Well, sometimes that happens with SVG conversions. If you're not that happy with your SVG conversion, you can always take another crack at it with some different settings. But this is actually going to be fine for what we're trying to do right now. I just want it to look more like a penny and show you how you can bring images in to TinkerCAD from outside. I'm going to go ahead and group them now, and that's going to be good enough. So, looks a lot like a penny to me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the trap. So we're going to get out a box shape here. I'm going to make it just slightly bigger. Slightly bigger. Okay, so we're going to make this 21. And 21. Slightly bigger than the penny itself. All right, and then now what I'm going to do is under radius here, I can round the edges. We haven't talked about this before, but it's actually a really convenient and nice thing to be able to do. Right, all the way until now you can see it's no longer a square, it's a ball shape. Right, so I'll just run around the corners a little bit. So I'm going to type in a number here. We're going to go for 2. Let's see, 2. Picture. Something about like that I think looks pretty good to me. You don't want to go too crazy with it. You could probably try other numbers. I think 3 also would work just fine. But you don't want to go too crazy or you don't even have a cube shape anymore. Okay, so what are we going to do? We want to hollow out the whole inside of this cube. We want a sphere on the inside that's hollowed out that's bigger than the penny. So the penny is able to freely move around on the inside. So we're going to want a sphere shape that's bigger than the penny. You remember the dimensions we picked for our penny. Right, so we're going to pick a sphere shape that is bigger than that. Now this sphere shape actually just happens to already be perfectly exactly bigger than that. So it's probably good to go like this, but let's save it for later. Then what we want to do is we want to have windows that go into the penny that are too small for the penny to go out. So we can use a circular window. We can create a cylinder that goes all the way through as a whole. And we want to make sure this is smaller than the penny, right? The penny would be able to fall out if we made it this size. So we need to make this smaller. And, go ahead and make it, right? So we're going to try some different things here and experiment with some different things. But I think if it's just barely, barely, barely smaller, like this is 19.05, if I just make this 19, the penny could maybe still fall out on a cold day or something, or who really knows? No one's going to be that impressed with. It looks like you just forced it in. Anyway, so I'm going to make this a hole. And I'll use the align tool to line that up, right, perfectly with that later. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to hold down Alter and make another one and make another one. I'm going to rotate. This is going to be the up and down holes. I'm going to make this one's going to be the side to side holes. Give it a 90-degree rotation. We've learned about the rotation tool, 90-degree rotation. And then this one, we're going to rotate it the other way. This one, we're going to rotate the other way. That's another 90-degree rotation. There we go. Now, I want this to perfectly go through the middle of that, this to perfectly go through the middle of that, this to perfectly go through the middle of that. That is a tricky thing to set up on your own, but it's a very, very, very easy with the align tool. I'm just going to grab my 3 cylinders and my box shape all at the same time. Grab the align tool, line it up this way, line it up this way, line it up this way, and line it up the up and down way. Boom. It is now perfect. It is now perfect. And I hope you see how that was not only better, but it was way faster than any other way you could really do that. Now I'm going to group all this together, group it. And this is the basic idea of the penny trap. Its shape is basically done now. But what you can see is these corner bits right here actually make it so that the penny doesn't have that much room to wiggle around inside. It can't wiggle all the way around because of those shapes inside. So what we can do is we can bring this in, and I'll show you. So this is right now 20 by 20 by 20. And if we make it into a hole, and then do the same align trick, not the penny, align those shapes. Align, align, align. You can see that this is 20 by 20 by 20, but you can see that right here, right, that this point right here, this point right here is actually sticking into the space we want for the penny to be able to move around. And that's going to make it so the penny doesn't wiggle around as freely as it could. It's going to be hitting these points all the time, anytime you get it to try to wiggle around. So we want to kind of work these points down some by making this sphere bigger. You can see the sphere definitely has room to get bigger because of all this, right, space you can see through around the outside. So I can make the sphere bigger, and it won't even be touching the red on these other spots. I'll just take these points down some. So I'm going to make the sphere bigger. Right now, this sphere is 20 by 20 by 20, and we're going to make it just a little bit bigger. Try 22. Just trying stuff. 22. 22. Now, some of you may notice that 22 is actually slightly bigger than the original. I'm going to align everything again now. Than the original box was before we rounded the edges. And that's fine, right? The sphere is just going to just barely, barely, barely stick out the top. You can see it's barely sticking out over here, right? The sphere just barely, barely, barely sticking out. That's fine, right? What we really want is we can see now the sphere is taking down these points on the inside. So these points are going to be taken down a lot without really doing much more to the shape on the inside except taking down the points. If we make the sphere inside too big, it's going to start thinning out. So right now we're barely touching this right here. See, it's not even actually touching here. But if we made the sphere much bigger, it would start eating into this and then making this a weak spot as this would start getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And we don't really want to do that. This is just about right, I think. So now we're going to group it, and you'll see it's not going to do a ton, but it's going to take these points down, and that's going to let the penny wiggle around more freely on the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to group these. And there we go. That's the big idea. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use D for drop. I'm going to select my shape. I'm going to push D to drop it to the work plane. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my penny, and I'm going to raise it just a bit and make sure it looks like it really does fit inside. Because if it doesn't, that is a problem. So there we go. I'm going to take a look. Here it's clipped. It's here you can see it's clipping, so that's no good. Okay. Here we see not touching here. Not touching here. Not touching here. And not touching here. So this would work. But you can see the penny is still too big to come out through the hole. So the idea then is we would print this, and then halfway through the print job, when the printer's getting up pretty high over here, we would just throw the penny inside and let the print job go ahead and finish up. So how do we turn this in so that we can actually 3D print it now? What we're going to do is we don't want to print the penny inside. All right, I want to save the penny inside because I think it's cool and that's part of how your assignment goes. What we're going to do is we're going to actually temporarily delete the penny. This is what we want to print. Right, so when we're done, we're going to undo the delete of the penny. But for now, we delete the penny, and now we're going to export the STL file. Export this STL. So we're going to download it. This is what Funky Crunk, I should have given this a better name or whatever. Funky Crunk Lappy. All right, thanks a lot, TinkerCAD, for always giving stuff weird names. That's the STL file I'm going to turn into Canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and undo now so I get to keep my penny. Now we go back to Canvas, and how are we going to turn this in? We're going to go to Student View so you can see. Right, so what you would do, it would look like this. You would click Start Assignment. Then over here, you get a chance to choose a file, and it's only going to accept those STL files anyway. So if you try to turn in anything else, it shouldn't accept it. Here's my STL file. It says type STL, the Funky Crunk Lappy that I really should have given it a better name. And now we're going to open that. Leave me a comment if you'd like to, if there's something you want to tell me, and then click Submit Assignment. You are going to have to upload that file, so give it a moment to do that. And then we've submitted the document, and then make sure that it's actually here. So then what I'm going to be able to do now is once I've gotten these, I'm going to be able to go ahead and take a look and see at all these STL files, download them all to the 3D printer, and I'd like to try to print about, boy, I don't know, but we could print the whole class worth at the same time. That would actually really be something. But we'll see how that part of it goes. We may have to break it down into only printing 5 or 10 at a time so that it finishes while we're still at school today on that day. Anyways, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, folks. I guess the last thing I should really say is that if you're doing this in class with me in the room, please raise your hand and let me come and take a look at this step before you turn it in with the STL file. Because I'm going to be able to help you see any problems and tell you if this is going to work or not before we try to 3D print it, before you even try to turn it in. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.